Well, tomorrow's the big day, isn't it? I don't think I need to remind you, but I expect you to be on your best behavior. I don't want you or your daughter doing anything to upset the other guests, understand? It's embarrassing enough for my son to be marrying a girl who was raised by a single mother. If anything, that's a detail that I'd ordinarily prefer to keep a secret from my family. The cat's out of the bag, however, so there's no use hiding it. I would appreciate, however, if you wouldn't act like it.
Well, good evening to you too, Ken. I'm sorry, is there something you find embarrassing about coming from a single-parent home? I'm not sure why you'd feel the need to hide it. Have I done something to offend you?
How can I put it? It's not so much that you've done something, and more just the fact that you exist. I mean, I'm shocked, honestly. You really made it this far in life by yourself without getting remarried? Isn't it humiliating just to show your face in public? You might as well be wearing a sign that says, "My husband couldn't stand me, and neither can any other man."
Oh boy, where to start? First, that would have to be a very big sign. Second, I was the one who initiated the divorce, not my ex-husband, and I had a very good reason for doing so. Also, I haven't really been out there looking for a new husband, so the fact that I'm still single has nothing to do with my appeal to men. So I don't know what exactly you're shocked about. I, however, am quite shocked that you would actually think that "aren't you embarrassed to go in public" is an acceptable question to ask someone.
Yes, you would be shocked, wouldn't you? You obviously associate with a far lower caliber of person than I do. At least that's the only way I can think of for you to have come this far in life without anyone telling you what they really think. Good Lord, this is making me nervous about tomorrow. As they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And based on what I know about the tree in question, oh boy! At this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if buyer's remorse sets in within the first few days. I would hate for my poor son to have to go through divorce at such a young age.
Ken, believe me when I say that you don't have a thing to worry about. I took great care in raising my daughter to be as good of a woman, wife, and mother as she can be. I've seen how she and Sawyer act when they're together, and to say they're crazy about each other would be an understatement. The two of them are going to build a happy family together, I can tell.
Well, what I can tell is that when the two of them get divorced, it's going to be your daughter's fault. Children of broken homes tend to go on to make broken homes of their own, after all. I trust you're prepared to take responsibility for everything when that day comes, correct?
Personally, I don't see any reason to treat divorce like an inevitability. I mean, they're not even married yet. Their wedding is tomorrow. It seems kind of vulgar to be talking about their divorce at a time like this. As parents, the best thing for us to do now is to support our children as much as we can as they embark on their new journey, wouldn't you say?
As someone whose marriage is still going strong, I'd say that you are in no position to be giving anyone any advice regarding married life or parenting. Let me say it another way. I won't give much weight to the words of someone who not only failed in their marriage, but also failed to remarry even decades later. What could you even tell them? How sad it is to be abandoned and unwanted for most of your life? Sob stories about the misery and poverty your ex-husband left you in may garner you sympathy with some people out there, but they won't have any effect on me. Which reminds me, your daughter is about to experience a quality of life like you never even dreamed would be possible. But that life is only for her and not for you. I don't want you coming around to my son or myself begging for handouts. Do I make myself clear?
I would never even consider doing that. I took pride in raising my daughter to be able to stand on her own 2 feet, and I did so by setting a good example for her. So no, I will not be relying on your son or you for any money. I have no such need or intentions. Honestly, why would you even bring up such a ridiculous concern?
Ridiculous people do ridiculous things, Caroline. When dealing with them, you have to have ridiculous concerns. And with that, I'll take my leave. Do take care not to do anything embarrassing in front of my family at the wedding tomorrow.
And the same goes for you, Ken.
Come now, Caroline. Did you actually think I would prepare a seat for an impoverished single mother at my son's wedding? I do appreciate the pre-show entertainment, however. The stunned expression on your face was positively hysterical.
I genuinely cannot believe what just happened. I went to where I assumed my seat would be as the mother of the bride, but it wasn't there. Then when you called out to me, I assumed you would be showing me to where my seat was. But you just threw a glass of wine all over me.
And you should be grateful that's all that happened to you. What an obnoxious little upstart you are, thinking you, of all people, deserved a seat at this wedding. It was high time someone finally taught you your place. Do you get just where you rank in this world now, Caroline? You've got just two choices now. You can either watch the ceremony while standing up in the back of the room, or you can show yourself the door.
You expect me to stand and watch the ceremony while covered from head to toe in wine?
I have to say, this look suits you quite well, Caroline. The embarrassment you're feeling right now is just a small taste of the humiliation you've caused me by showing up today. If you don't want things to get any worse for you, then take the hint and leave now. I don't have any use for an unmarriageable woman like you.
I have a message for you. This marriage ends now.
Is that so? Excellent news! I should have seen this coming, really. Go on, take your filthy daughter with you and get out of my sight. I'll have my son marry a woman from a family with more class.
You're in deep enough of a hole as things stand, Ken. Don't you think you ought to stop digging? Your wife is practically on her hands and knees begging me for forgiveness right now.
What? My wife is apologizing to you? What are you talking about?
That's just like I said. Your wife is here with me, crying her eyes out and apologizing to me for you. And she wants me to tell you that your marriage ends now.
All right, that's more than enough nonsense out of you for one day. If you think I believe that my wife would be apologizing to you, much less saying she wants to divorce me, you've got another think coming. Don't ever lie about my wife like that again. I mean, really, what reason would my wife have to apologize to a nobody like you?
Oh, she has a very good reason. I'm the CEO of the company that she works for.
What? You're a CEO?
Why, yes, Ken, I am. Thank you so much for asking about my work, something you've never even done once before now. But to be honest, I don't think she needs to apologize to me for anything. I'm not the type of person to use my position as a CEO to terrorize my employees into submission. Plus, I would never do anything to jeopardize the company's relationship with your wife. She's one of the finest employees I have. We would be lost without her.
That's far too ridiculous to be true. But at the same time, why would you lie about something that would be so easy to debunk? I suppose I've never spoken to my wife about her career all that much.
You're right, you haven't said anything to her. She's been saying quite a bit to you, however. The problem is that you simply haven't been listening. Actually, from what she tells me, you never listen to what she has to say about much of anything. It sounds like she's been having doubts about her future with you for quite some time.
No, I don't believe anything you're saying. This is all just a ploy to frighten me into debasing myself by apologizing to you. To think I almost let myself get fooled by such an idiotic lie. You're a single mother. You couldn't even keep your husband in the house, and yet you're telling me you somehow managed to become a CEO? I suppose lying like this must be how you cope with the shame of failing in both your marriage and your career.
I have another message for you from your wife. Shut your foul mouth, you foolish old geezer. Didn't you notice the fact that your wife has been blowing up your phone with calls and texts for the last several minutes? She's trying to tell you to come over here and beg me for forgiveness immediately.
I disabled notifications from her number a long time ago. I had no idea she was calling. But what's going on? You mean my wife is really there with you? And not only that, you've managed to get her to go along with your story? What did you say to her?
I haven't said much to her, but boy oh boy has she told me some things about you. I understand that you recently fell victim to your company's restructuring and are currently unemployed, Ken.
No! She told you about that? I don't believe it! That is a private matter between her and I, and it doesn't concern you whatsoever. She had no right to discuss it with you.
Actually, Ken, I'd say she has every right to tell me. I'm not just the CEO of the company, I'm the one who personally scouted her to join my firm. I've seen her work at other places, and I was willing to pay her any price she wanted to have her work the same magic for me. And as it turns out, I was absolutely right to make her the offer I did. She's been pumping out results left and right. Every single project I have her work on is a roaring success. So in the course of our working together, I once asked her what it was that motivates her to work so hard. And do you know what she told me? She said it's because her husband is a miserly cheapskate who keeps his entire paycheck to himself and makes her pay all the household expenses.
That woman! Listen, Caroline, I want you to tell my wife that she is not to say one more word about our private matters to you. Also that we're going to have a very serious talk about her need to learn to hold her tongue. What's wrong with her? How could she treat her own husband like this? Is she trying to ruin my reputation?
I don't think she's getting any pleasure out of airing all your dirty laundry. Quite the contrary, she's rather embarrassed. Embarrassed by you, that is. She told me that she rarely ever talks about you because of the shame she feels. Do you get what that means, Ken? It means that what you've done and the way you've acted in your marriage are so out of line that it's hard for her to talk to other people about you.
Is that really the way she feels about me?
It is, Ken. And if you just put the slightest bit of thought into it, you should understand what sort of position she's in. Right now, with you out of a job, she's the one who's carrying the entire burden of your family's finances on her shoulders. If I were to take offense at your behavior today and fire your wife because of it, what would happen? Both you and your wife would be unemployed. I feel like that's an outcome you would prefer to avoid, right?
As much as it pains me to admit it, you're correct. So, Caroline, we can be reasonable about all of this, can't we? You're not going to fire my wife over this, are you? You said it yourself. My wife is one of the finest employees you have.
Oh, most certainly. Your wife hasn't done anything wrong. I would have to be out of my mind to fire her.
Well, that's a relief. The way you were talking made me nervous that you were actually considering firing her. You're gonna give me a heart attack. Anyway, now that I know the truth about you, this changes everything. Sure, it may not be optimal that you're a single mother, but I'll only be related to you loosely through my son. I can tolerate that much if it means my son finds happiness.
Yeah, about that son of yours. I think you should know that he's right here on his knees next to your wife, also begging for my forgiveness. I'll bet he never thought you would have taken things this far.
What? Even Sawyer is over there with you? He's usually much more level-headed than this. I don't see why he would go and make such a big deal out of nothing.
You are about to have a very bad day if you're still going to act like what happened at the wedding was nothing. Your wife is feeling humiliated and afraid, but not your son. No, he's another story entirely. He is furious. He tells me he's going to go back to the cathedral and physically remove you from the premises personally.
What? What do you mean?
I mean he's going to come over there and drag you out of the room by your shirt collar. He says that he's ashamed to call you his father.
Ashamed? Of me? I will not stand for such talk. I am his father. He will pay me the respect I deserve.
I think the issue here is that you grossly overestimate how much respect you deserve. Anyway, one way or another, you're going to be kicked out of the wedding. If he presents you with a choice, I highly suggest you choose the easy way. The hard way is just going to add insult to injury. So, good luck dealing with your very large, very strong, and very angry son.
Caroline, I wanted to let you know once again how sorry I am for what happened yesterday. The only reason we were able to continue the wedding as scheduled despite the disturbance was your graciousness. Thank you so much for being so forgiving.
Really, Sawyer, it's all right. You said all you needed to say yesterday. I'm so happy that you and my daughter are finally married. I'm rooting for the two of you.
I don't know what I'll ever do to repay you for everything you've done for us. Both me and my mom owe you so much. So I promise you I will find some way to return the kindness you've shown us.
Sawyer, please, I'm telling you, you don't need to do that. You know how you can repay me. By working together with my daughter to make your marriage the happiest that it can be. There is no better gift that you could ever give me than that.
Caroline, I promise you, I won't let you down. I'll make your daughter the happiest woman in the entire world.
I always knew you would, Sawyer. As far as your father is concerned, I remember the pre-game speech you gave me before you took me to your house to meet him. You said that your father is a bit different and apologized in advance for any rude things he might say to me. Thanks to you telling me that, I was more than prepared to deal with his nonsense. Though I have to say I was surprised at how thickly he laid it on at the wedding.
Wait, did he say something to you?
Oh, you know, the usual. The same prejudice against single mothers.
No way! He was actually giving you grief about that at our wedding? I am so sorry for the kind of person that my father is. He's the kind of guy that always has to find some reason to complain about everything. It's like he wants to try and control anything and everything around him or something. And if someone goes against his ideal image, oh boy, look out. But I never thought he would even be that way with you.
Your father is a way with defying people's expectations, doesn't he? Just not in a good way. I mean, the father of the groom dumping a glass of wine all over the mother of the bride at the wedding? Not even people who've known your father for ages would have seen that coming.
I was caught between wanting to hide out of shame and punch him in a blind rage.
Yes, I remember feeling a similar way myself, unsure whether to laugh or scream bloody murder. But again, it's all done now. I'm already completely over it. But based on the way you were acting yesterday, I can't help but think that you two will be getting over it as easily as I was. It seemed like the two of you had been putting up with that man's outrageous antics for far longer than I can imagine, which is a big reason why I didn't bear any ill will toward either you or your mother. Quite the contrary, I'd like to help any way I can. Being a CEO means I have plenty of connections, and I'm more than happy to use them to your benefit. At the very least, I'll have no issue with arranging for a place for your mother where she can feel safe and at ease.
Thanks to you, both me and my mom are free now. It's kind of hard for me to take in. I just feel so overwhelmed by relief.
I bet it feels incredible considering all you've had to go through. But that's all in the past now. You have nothing more to hold you back from living your best life possible.
Yeah, you're right. It's time to stop dreading the past and look toward the future. Caroline, if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate the opportunity to apologize for yesterday. I had no idea such a minor incident would have such outlandish repercussions.
Really, Ken? You're calling it a minor incident? You dumped wine on me, the mother of the bride, and kicked me out of the wedding. If that's minor, then I'd like to hear what your definition of major is. And none of the consequences that you faced are outlandish in the slightest. You're getting nothing more or less than exactly what you deserve. Like having your own son throw you out of his wedding.
I never imagined that I would be in this sort of position. I've been the breadwinner for this family for decades.
Oh, you have you? Unless I'm mistaken, your wife has been the one supporting your family for at least the last several years, right? It's pretty obvious to anyone with any sense at all what you're doing. The only reason you're trying to reach out to apologize to me is because your wife is leaving you and you're terrified.
You don't understand, though. My wife has completely lost her mind. I kept trying to tell her that divorcing at our age would be a catastrophically stupid thing to do, but she just won't listen. No matter what I said, she kept saying she was going to divorce me. I've never seen her like this before. She's ordinarily much more obedient. She shoved a stack of divorce papers in my face and forced me to sign them, and now she's on her way to her lawyer's office to get them submitted. This is my last chance to stop her before it's too late.
I'd say your last chance was before you signed the divorce papers. Why didn't you put up more of a fight back then? Did your pride get the better of you?
You don't know the first thing about a man's pride, Caroline. After all the years I spent dedicating myself to supporting my family, and this is the thanks I get? A cold betrayal when we should be heading into our golden years?
What you've been doing wasn't supporting your family, it was controlling them. You always demanded things go exactly the way you wanted them to without even an inch of compromise. If something wasn't going your way, you simply berate whoever you're dealing with until they relent. I've never told you or anyone else about this, but your son came to me, distraught before, and confessed something. He said that he wanted his mother to divorce you like I did to my ex-husband.
What? You're kidding me! Then you mean to tell me that this is all his doing?
No, Ken, let's make one thing perfectly clear before we move on. This is all your fault and no one else's. Your wife has been fed up with you for quite some time now. After you lost your job, did you do the responsible thing and go out and look for a new one? No, you carried on like everything was normal, went out drinking and gambling, and then came home smelling like booze and acting like the king of the castle. Even though you didn't have a job, you still forced your wife to do all the housework. Whenever she tried to talk to you about it, you'd fly into a blind rage, punching walls and throwing whatever objects you could get your hands on. She was so terrified of you that she didn't know what she would do if she ever tried to leave you.
But what did she expect me to do? Debase myself and wash dishes like some kind of maid? That's what I have a wife for. Men aren't meant to do such things. Housework is her job, and when I'm at home, that means it's my time off. Where does she get off forcing me to do her job on my break time?
I don't know if you've seen a calendar lately, but it's not the Middle Ages anymore. You can't force women to do whatever you want and threaten them with violence if they disobey anymore. And if you want to talk about people doing their job, isn't it a man's job to provide for his family's needs? But you were a cheapskate about every single aspect of your expenses. The very reason your wife started working in the first place was because you refused to pay for anything other than a community college for Sawyer. Sawyer told me that your wife would tell him all that time that she regrets marrying a man like you.
So that's it? She's going to run away? And do what? What could she possibly do with her life if she loses me?
She's not losing you so much as gaining her life back. She's working for me and making plenty of money, so you don't have to worry about her finances. As for a place to live, I am putting her up in employee housing free of charge. If anything, without you around, she'll have far more of a life than she ever did before. So she has nothing to lose by walking away from you, but you have everything to lose. When she's gone, so is your only source of income. You'll be left all alone as a jobless, penniless, unwanted, and unmarriageable old man. This will be a great opportunity for you to learn just how useless you really are.
Okay, I get it. You win. I was wrong. I'll apologize. So please tell my wife not to divorce me. I'll start looking for a new job right away. That will solve everything, right? You just have to talk some sense into her. Aren't you concerned about what people will think of her when they hear she's divorced?
No, not really, since you're just about the only person who's so comically prejudiced against divorced women. It's time for you to lose everything, Ken. That's the only way you'll ever realize what a fool you are. Ken managed to catch up with his wife while she was about to walk into her lawyer's office. He was crying his eyes out, begging her not to leave him, but it didn't do any good. After that day, I noticed a change in her at the office. She started smiling way more, and her performance, which was already top-notch, improved drastically. As for Ken, partially because of his age, and partially because he never had any real employable skills to begin with, he hasn't had any luck at all in his job search. From what I understand, he's currently looking for part-time jobs, since no company is willing to hire him full-time. I can't say that I feel bad for him, honestly. Oh, and I have great news. My daughter is expecting their first child right now. I'm so excited to watch the two of them as they build their own big and happy family.